So while we all start pilfering in a little bit from lunch, we're going to be talking a little bit about Clarity now. This is not going to take a full hour for us to get through. Who's had a chance to download and take a look at Clarity now yet? Yeah, Oliver, Jim, Max. What's been your initial thought? And I don't need to get a whole history lesson if you used it or didn't use it or whatever, but just generally, did you have a chance to get into it? Like, what's some initial thoughts you have on the program itself?
It was easy to log into.
Yeah.
I put some initial numbers in. I haven't gone through and set everything up. So far it's easy to navigate, so that's good.
Oh, good. What about you guys? Just kind of general.
I think I'm on the same boat as Oliver. I've been in there, played around with it, haven't really in depth done a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. That's why we're, the class on. But let me ask you, because this program was actually built by a Keller Williams agent, or at least someone who had a very intimate knowledge of the Keller Williams. He's good, so you're pretty bad. So I wrote up ELVO on here. It's not missing a W, it's an acronym. But ELVO stands for the 4 foundational models for Keller Williams. Does anybody know what the models are? 4 foundational models for Keller Williams. The economic model, 1. What else?
Lead generation.
The lead generation model, what else?
Budget.
I was hoping you would get that one. Budget model, and then what's the
Organization.
organization? So the reason why I put those up here is that Clarity Now is effectively the economic model, lead gen model, and budget model, and the org model to a degree, all in one program, right? Now, Clarity Now, again, just as a cost and what it is, and how much, as a solo agent or as an independent, if you were to buy this, it's probably about $120 to $130 a month. KW Power has made a big investment with them, and it is free to all of our agents. We are also offering this out to co-ops right now. So if you're chatting with a co-op and somebody and you have a conversation with them or whatever, and they're saying like, oh man, I just feel like budget or like business planning is just not, I'm just not right there. I feel like I'm just running with my hair on fire. Tell them, say, hey, would you be interested in getting access to one of our tools? And we'll give it to them for free for a year. And obviously after a year, hopefully we're getting them to like it. And then if you'd like to continue using this, that's great. Why don't we have another conversation about you becoming a KW Power agent? So Clarity Now is all of that in a nutshell. As I'm gonna walk through this, I'm actually gonna come and kind of, Frank and Tori got off last week. So the way I want to walk through this is just that, just a walkthrough. I don't want to go too in depth with this, but please go ahead.
How do I log into this?
So Clarity Now, if you go to kwempower.com/dashboard, there is a Clarity Now sign up link there. You need to go and find it via the link because that link is embedded with you being an enterprise level, right, participant through KW Power, which would make it, you would see it go as $0 with that. If you just went to Clarity Now, you see the same screen, but when you go to the payment screen, it would show up trying to charge you money. So let's not take that way, right? And I'm actually recommending school where you work. So I'm going to kind of teach this from in front of the TV screen here, not because I actually have to walk around this thing as best I can and crane my neck. So the first thing that I will tell you about Clarity Now is when you arrive on the homepage here, you obviously have the dashboard, and that's kind of where we're going to start to go to look at a lot of the things that are for the actual tracking. Okay. The one thing I will really encourage you to do, these 5 videos right here. Everything I'm going to go over here today is effectively found in these 5 videos, right? So these are how to use Clarity Now to run your business, how to do a one-on-one. If you are a team leader, Clarity Now allows you to look in and see all of your agents all in one dashboard too, where their production is versus their goals, where the gap gain is. All right, for running team meetings to go over budget, how to manage your finances. I do believe that Clarity Now also links directly into QuickBooks. So if you do use QuickBooks for any sort of bookkeeping or anything like that, you can connect it here and you can track it that way as well.
and then just how to do business planning in here, right? So each one of these, I would really recommend taking a look. Now, I'm in JP's account, so I don't know quite what we're gonna start to look at. All right. First things first, did anybody else have the immediate want to click X on that pop-up? I do all the time. I'm going to encourage you again, not to. Clarity Now is set up to really help walk you through the system. Complicated financials, complicated budget and lead gen stuff. Allow the system to walk you through in the way that makes the most sense. So we're actually going to go in and create the economic model here. You can see behind it though, it's similar in a command where on the left-hand side, we have our applets, and obviously all those are going to go into some different things. Some are a little bit more important than others. Some you'll come into on a daily basis to try and update. Others might be a once a month type deal, once a quarter, right? So creating the economic model, let's do it for this year. Okay. And a real basic idea, the economic model, you guys see my Rain Man board in the office? Has anybody walked in there recently? It's all covered in scratch. I have the economic model on the one side and I have the lead model in the middle. The economic model is about connecting two numbers. How much net income do you want to earn from real estate this year? And how many appointments do you have to go on to do that? So I have a board up on my board based on a couple basic conversions, $100,000 in real estate, net income. I need to go on 63 appointments, buyer and seller. Okay. So let's work down this, right? So I own a team. Let's go with, I'm an individual agent. What do we want our net profit goal to be for the year? What do we want to set it at? 200,000 as a solo agent? You're cranking. 200,000 for that. What's our average sales price going to be for a net profit goal of 200,000? 400. And what's your average commission percentage on each transaction?
2.5.
2.5. We're not setting commission. This is simply for examples purposes. Okay. All right. So now so our average commission per deal will be about $10,000. Okay. So let's bump to our listing information now. Okay. So listing takes in percentage. Now that as I read, it's a little confusing, but obviously it gives you a little hint and it also should explain to you what it is. The final thing on here, every single one of these screens generally has a little how-to, 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute, going through and having somebody explain to you in real time what that field's trying to do. So let's talk about this agent. What percentage of listing appointments that you go on will you get signed? So they give us a rough range of 70%. Do we want to go with 70%, or what do we want to put here as a percentage of when I go and sit at a listing appointment, this is the percentage chance that I'm actually going to take a signed listing agreement from it. We want to go 70, 80%, 10%? 80. Sounds good.
I shoot for.
Oh, not 0.000. So, all right, listings taking to close. What percentage of listings that you will take will result in a closing? Now, this is obviously market to market. I think right now we're still in a pretty good, if you're going to take a listing likely to sell, we want to go with another maybe 80 to 85% on this one. We'll go with 85. We'll give ourselves a pretty good fighting chance here. All right, percentage of business from listings, right? So this is, if you exclusively work buyers, then you're 100% buyers and 0% listings. If you do half buyers, half sellers, it's 50-50. For this solo agent, are they going to be more listing focused or more buyer focused?
Hopefully more listing.
Hopefully more. So why don't we put them as a 60% listing focused agent and 40% buyer agent, okay? Let's do the same thing with the buyers real quick. What percentage of buyer appointments that you go on will you get signed? I think buyer appointments sometimes, depending on lead source, this is a big determinant, right? If you're doing a lot of online leads, it might be 40 to 50%. If you're working on a lot of spear and referral, it might be a lot higher, closer to 60, 70% for signed by buyer agencies. So let's take it, let's kind of go near the middle here. Let's say about 60% of them that I go on. And then how many of your buyers get actually taken to close? So here's where I want to hear from y'all. Because right now, working with buyers is still a little tricky at the moment, right? We talked about it from an affordability standpoint, interest rate, price standpoint, the whole nine. We have seen the market soften since July of this year. So what percentage of buyers that you sign will result in a closing? What do we want to put here? No wrong numbers, just throw a couple out. I'd probably go actually closer to about 40%, somewhere, right? Probably not even every 1 out of 2, okay? All right, so let's do a little estimating our annual expenses now. On average, how much do you intend to spend on your business per month?
That's a hard one.
It is a hard one. But let's talk about a couple basic expenses that we have. If we have to factor in our board dues, that's $800 maybe for the year, right? for the year, correct? So let's spread that out. That might be $80 a month, right? Something like that. What other expenses do we incur as agents throughout the year? We got some bright fees that would go in there. If we have to average all of our bright fees, that might be 600 for the year. So maybe another $50 that we add there. What else? We got some Canvas stuff. So that's $100 for the year. So another $8 per month. And we're kind of getting up to, what does that put us at, Max? I thought you were my calculator.
Yeah.
We have some gas,
Office fees.
right? We got, if you have office fees and different things like that, right? Okay. So what- Yes, Century Key, you got your Supras, different things like that. So would it be unreasonable for us to put up here maybe $600 a month? Somewhat reasonable? Okay. And again, you can come back and play around with this. Now, we're also gonna be able to get into cost of sale. So we have that difference, right, between an operating expense and a cost of sale. What's the difference between the two? Operating expense is something I have to incur regardless of whether I sell a home or not. Cost of sale is exclusively incurred when you have to sell a home. Your split is a cost of sale, right? You can take your total as your gross, then your split would effectively become a cost of sale. What you take home as your net would become, right, your net off of that. So we'll put 600 for now, but we can always come back and edit some of these things if we remember something or want to add it in a different spot. That gives us about 7,200 a year in maybe operating expense for this, right? So now let's jump to our cost of sale, right? The following cost of sale calculator is your annual cost of sale. Is there a maximum amount you pay your broker per year, also known as a? Thank you. I'm just trying to lead the witness here. All right, so what is the maximum dollar amount that we will pay our broker? So we have, you can see here, my initial thought would want to go to, and again, a lot of folks in here, you have different splits and everything like that. We're gonna go off of any new agent that joins the brokerage, which is where we are today. I'm gonna let you know what those are. So we do also have a franchise fee that gets paid in addition, right? So our cap for the market center and for all of Keller Williams Power is 18,000, and we have a $3,000 annual royalty that gets paid directly to KWRI, right? So that becomes our total amount that we would pay in any one year. So let's keep going to finish up cost of sale. Does this agent have an ISA department? They want to do a $200,000 net income listing heavy business. Are they going to be running an ISA or not? No?
What is
Yeah,
ISA?
yeah.
What is ISA?
So an ISA is like an inside sales agent. And an ISA is someone who helps to call your database for you, right? As an agent, my highest dollar producing activity is at a listing appointment, at a buyer appointment, right? Showing homes, negotiating contracts, right? Sometimes that rote database work, that hours of lead generation and staying in touch, it's a lot of work. So an ISA is someone who you would hire to help with that kind of bulk of calls. An OSA, or an outside sales agent, is someone who helps to prospect on your behalf outside of your database to bring in new business. Someone who would make cold calls and do circle prospecting of work expired and for sale by owners for you. So let's say this agent's a little bit more on the up and up. They're not quite at an ISA level yet. So we'll take no from there, and they're going to be doing all that work themselves, right? How many referral fees in units do you intend to pay out in 2025? So let's see, your company paying a referral fee to another broker at the closing of your sale. So for this agent, do they receive a decent amount of referrals from other agents? What do we think? Hopefully, if we're in a tri-state area, quad-state area, we hopefully should be. I think in terms of units, I'd actually like to receive 5 referrals this year, right? Reasonable, maybe more, that'd be great, but let's at least go with 5 to do that. On average, what referral fee will you pay out? I'm just gonna put about a 25% here for that. Again, not setting costs, just expecting something to change. All right, so let's keep going with cost of sale. Do you pay a transaction fee to an admin on each closing? Do we wanna have a take me to closing type fee in here for some of that, right? Leverage becomes the one only way you grow, right? Okay. So how much do you pay an admin on each closing? Well, I think we take some of the numbers there. If we did the full concierge service and everything, with everything that they do, I think we're gonna be at about $495 is what I saw. If we did everything, there's the lower tiers, but let's go a little bit more conservative and we'll put it a bit higher. Do you pay a transaction fee to an admin on each closed buyer? So we're gonna say no on the buyer fee. We're gonna say that they're running all that they can. But on the close, they are paying a fee out to an admin on each close and listing. So maybe with this one, this is marketing support, listing support, the social graphics and things, but they're running all their transactions on the buyer side. Okay, so we'll put that on no to here. What other cost of sale do we incur as agents? Are there any other expenses that we can incur as an agent outside of splits? Different things like that.
Pictures.
Pictures we might have. So why don't we put maybe another $200 per transaction, maybe 150 for photos, plus another 50 miscellaneous-ish. Again, we can come back and do this, but this is kind of the thought exercise, right? Are there any costs that you will incur when this transaction closes? Paying for home warranty at closing, paying for inspection repairs at closing, and hopefully we're not paying for this. Let's talk a little seasonality. So this goes into, obviously, this time of year, January, February, March, sometimes can be a lower volume in transaction month. But as we pick up in April, June, July, August, September, October, right, business tends to pick up and then it trails off again near the end of the year. So what this is saying is what percentage of your closings will occur in Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. And you can see at the moment it's got to add up to 100. So they're saying we do about 20% of our business here. Sorry, the scroller is, there we go. 20% in Q1, 30% and 30% in Q2 and Q3, and 20% in Q4. Are we all good with leaving that as is? Okay. So let's go ahead and hit submit here. So now it's going to bring us inside. You can see we're back at that sort of dashboard page here, and this is inside the business planning tool, economic model for this year, right? If I click on this, I can go down and you can see we have the econ model, the budget model, and the lead gen model in here, right? The organizational model is a little bit more embedded. It's not its own line item, okay? So you can see here, I'm on the economic model specifically. Down here, it's going to show us a couple of the numbers for our business, right? So what it starts to do is saying, okay, if you need to do 200,000 in net profit with a closed sales volume, that's going to put you at 10 million. Company GCI 248, 325, your cost of sales 41,000. This puts you at a 25 unit that you need to close in order to hit that net income goal. Okay. Cost of sales 16.56%, gross profit, expenses, expense percentage, and profit percentage. So a 2.9% expense and an 80.54 profit. That might be a little askew. So that's where I might come in and I might go back to that expenses column. I might bump that 7,200 up, maybe a little bit higher, right? We might bump that up closer to 12,000, 14,000, 15,000, especially if that agent is going to start buying any sort of lead sources, right? Then we can add another $200 to $300 to $500 a month onto that. So you can come back and you can play around with it, but let's just take, yeah, absolutely. So now we can come and see just some basic stuff, right? Our listing goals here, we want to have at least 5 appointments held, 4 listings taken in the Q1 and Q4, and then we want to do at least 7 appointments per quarter in Q2 and Q3 with 5 listings taken each for a total of 18 total listings taken, right? Now our buyer goals should be obviously a little bit different, right? We have buyer appointments held and buyers taken, and we have to take 25 buyers. So in order for us to hit that 200,000, I needed to take 18 listings or 1.5 listings per month, and I need to basically take on 2 buyers per month. So a listing and a half and 2 buyers every single month, it's actually driving you pretty close to that goal. And that, I think, this is when I chatted with Jim about doing some business planning stuff, this was the thing that was most shocking to him, was that it was actually a lot less units to hit some of the net income goal that he really figured. One of the things that I do enjoy, prices homes have gone up. Right? On a pure commission basis, for each underlying asset, for each unit, the average commission has increased. Now, I have also seen a lot of listings offering 2.5. So that I do think has been a correction in the market a little bit. While the price of the home has gone up and the commissions have gone up, the average commission rate, I believe, has fallen a little bit. And so it has kind of kept us on our pay schedule a little bit in line, but still sit down, articulate your value, have your buyer agency and listings agreement signed at the rate that you want to be compensated. Okay. All right. And then we obviously have our quarter goals for the volumes here. All right. So that's a basic rundown of just getting your effective 2025 economic model set up. Pretty straightforward on that, right? I mean, this is Google Forms, single prompt, single ask, and then it does all the math. It does the Excelling in the background for you. So let's just take a look at a couple things here real quick. So first, and I'm just going to kind of run down this left-hand side, and that's going to basically do it for us here today. So we have our main dashboard, 25 closed units, 10 million, and then we have our annual goal of total GCI of 248, which would factor in getting rid of all the expenses. As you go in and you do some of your tracking and you update your sales pipeline, these will all begin to update. And that's what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to visit your money daily. You want to be able to visit your business daily, right? And so this is our quick see dashboard to see everything. Down here, you can see we obviously just see that seasonality again, a little bit of a different view, and then our potential volume, which not even quite sure. JP helped doing 400,000 in total volume here. Oh, okay, I see. It's off the splits and everything. Down here, again, some pretty straightforward. I don't want to just keep going over kind of the same graphs, but these are the ones that begin to update as you fill in the rest of the information. These reports are the one that I think are probably some of the most helpful. Sitting behind me. So he was being very quiet. So let's go through basically just these couple real quick here. The CEO summary, okay? Now, as a CEO, you're going to want to see closings, pendings, closed volume, right? And where's pending volume, closed GCI, pending GCI. Why am I blanking on where PC and PC is? Who knows what the PC is here?
Per client, is it per client cost of sale?
I would have to think, yeah, per closing cost of sale, per closing gross profit. Yeah, a couple of these acronyms are not. Listing appointments held, listings signed. All right, so we can see basically month by month throughout the entire year what we did in each one of those months, right? So that to me is at least a high level view. Export it, drill down by your, whatever you want here. This for me is the team one. Now, if you are a solo agent, the only team member you're going to have here is yourself. But as a team leader, you can get every single team member brought down, and then you can see effectively a CEO summary for all of them. If you're going to be doing once a month or once a quarter sit downs with your agents, being able to sit down with them and review their production history is a really important thing for them to look at. Most agents are not actually tracking their numbers that carefully. They're not tracking where they are throughout the year. They're just running 100 miles an hour just to sell real estate. It's your job as the rainmaker, it's your job as the CEO of your company to sit down with your employees, your agents, and make sure that they know where they are along. So this would be your way of being able to do that same CEO summary, but then breaking it down by which team member you're doing it with to go over goals with them. Lead gen and conversions. So in here, you can see we got a couple of things we're looking at. Obviously, the listing side, the buyer side, our conversions, and our custom tracking sources. So let's just kind of start and look at what we got here. So obviously listings. While effort fills the top of the pipeline, skill helps the pipeline move down, right? So we know that effort is going to put leads at the top. But if all you say is, hello, do you want to buy a house? Well, you're not going to have many people go from the first drop down to the second drop down of appointment to sign. But if you have a really stellar listing and buyer presentation, I'm going to get more of those people going through, right? And then if we actually just do the 3 Ps of a listing, what are the 3 Ps? Put it in the MLS, put it in the sign in the yard and pray, right? That's what most agents do, right? So the better we get at that, more taken to solds that we get or taken to under contracts. These are the things that you coach on. This is your coaching opportunity. You see that they're getting a ton of contacts to listing appointments set, but then they have listing appointments set to held is super low. And you're saying, like, well, what are you talking about with them between the time you set the appointment and a week later when you appointments out? They're like, oh, well, I don't reach out to them because I don't want to cancel. Well, that's probably not good enough. We probably may want to have a couple touch points between when we set the appointment to actually hold it. Let's figure out what that process is. These are your coaching metrics. This is what you can actually sit down with your agents to help them improve, right? Contacts to listing set, set to held, held to taken, and taken to pended, right? We can't always control the pended to close. That's more the client that goes into that, but at least taken to pended and getting them under contract, right? Now up here, obviously you do the same thing for your buyers. And then inside of your conversions, this is where you get to start to see what is the actual conversion rate of dials to contacts. And then I do believe you can add, well, it's the ratio within inside the custom tracking sources. You can add in some more in here if you would like to. So lead sources. Now there's nothing in here at the moment, but we would be able to add these in as you go through with it. But we want to be able to track where these leads are coming from, right? We obviously know that most agents, a lot of the business comes from what, 3 to 4 primary sources, my sphere and past client, referrals, social media, open houses, whatever it is, right? Majority of your business is going to come from those. So we need to be able to track where they're coming from, because if I go into 2025 and 2026 and I say I want to increase my business by 20%, it's like, well, by doing what? By hoping, by working harder, or by doubling down on the actual lead sources that are actually bringing back the largest ROI. And where do you actually want to deploy capital to improve the business process for next year? Pipeline obviously is just that, okay? Now what I'll say is that at the moment, Clarity Now and Command do not speak together. But I have heard that they very much want to get Clarity Now inside of the Command marketplace so that your opportunities pipeline will just simply flow into this. So you don't have to do double entry bookkeeping to track it in two separate softwares. In my opinion, this may be one of the few places where I would still just keep it in Command because I'm already doing it there anyway. But again, good data in, good data out. If you want a little bit more insight into it, I wouldn't say it's a bad idea to do it in here as well. Okay. And then a P&L, right? We want to be able to see your total P&L for your business every month. And I have some agents that say to me, well, I don't want to run a P&L because it's probably negative. Probably the time that you need to run a P&L, right? And we want to see what expenses are starting to get out of control, right? What Frank just talked about here is like even running an enterprise level business, they are constantly taking a look at where they can cut little expenses. You don't want to know the conversations on a monthly basis me and my wife have about what goes on that credit card first. I'm considering taking it away from her. All right. It's a whole nother story, girl. Actually, she's not that. All right, so now we have all our listing, buyer income, transaction fees, gross income, then we get to that cost of sales, everything, then we get to our operating expenses, and then we get to any additional income that you get through profit share, right, vendor income, any bonuses, returns, etc. Okay. So a basic set of reports. Obviously, without us having a ton of data in here right now, they're a little vacant, right? It's a little hard to do an exposure. But obviously with everyone's business being kind of very private, especially when it comes to finances, we try and do this on a more theoretical basis for demonstrations purposes, right? Business planning. Let's just go through some basic here. So our basic business information, what's your average contract to close length? And this becomes really helpful as you go to do this goal gap. So let's think through these real quick. How many days on average does it take in your market to go from an accepted contract to a contract close? Well, 30 days is still a pretty fine moniker for that. A ramp up period. How many days on average does it take to go from listing agreement signed to day one on the market? Now I have 14 days in here. Do we think that's about appropriate? Longer? Sure. I mean, we have those people that I need this thing listed yesterday. It's like, okay. But most of the time there is a ramp. Most of the time from the time we meet them, we may want to ask them, hey, there's some repairs I'm going to recommend you do. We have to schedule for the photographer. I want to make sure you can clean up and declutter a little bit, right? Start moving some stuff around. Take the personal belongings down, take the jewelry out, take the medicine out. So is 2 weeks, do we think that's about on an average? We'd be okay with that, or maybe a little longer?
Well,
Let's go 21. Let's go 21 days. Let's go a couple weeks. And then average days on market. How many days average does it take to go from day one on the market to contract for yours? Now, I had run the stats for the 7 counties around here. Days on market are actually on average, we're closer to almost 40 at the moment, right? Median's even a little bit, I believe a little bit lower, and our average is a little bit higher because there's a couple listings that have been sitting for literally like 1,000 days. Just these odd minutes, right? So we'll submit that all back into our business information. You'll see that information come back up a little bit later. So our economic model, again, this should look fairly familiar. This looks very similar to what we were on that first time. Budget model, obviously, as we start to run in here, what are my expenses? What are my percentage of expenses? And then down here, this is where you can start to put additional expenses that you incur, right? So I can actually, on this side right here, add a new budget item, right? Please select a category. What was the expense that I incurred? Just put a basic explanation of it, description of it, what the monthly or annual expense is, and then we can add it in. So let's do just a really basic one here. So for me, let's do, I got my car payment. So we'll call this car payment and insurance, and we'll put this up. Let's say that we're driving something that's a little bit cheaper. So maybe we got $150 a month payment, and we're only paying another maybe $100 a month or $150 a month. So we'll put this as $300 monthly. I mean, my Jeep's fully paid off, and I pay $90 a month in insurance. So this is triple.
in Jersey?
Mm-hmm. Promise I'm not committing insurance. That's what my guy gave. So the annual expense field is required, so that would put us at 300 times 12. So then we add it in, drops it into our little line item here, and then we can be able to track it, and then we can start to load it here. You can see it comes in as here and what percentage of your GCI. Now inside of the red book, they give you a recommended chart of accounts for how much each of these percentages should be in relation to your overall GCI goal. So again, try and get them as close as you can to the model, always for a budget. If you're 5 to 8 to 10% over a certain category than what the red book recommends, well, that's probably a good idea to get the magnifying glass out and see where you're overpaying, right? And then finally, the lead gen model here, when we come into it, again, picking our year first. So this, let's work through this one together here real quick. So what's the current size of your database? So that agent who wants to do what, over 40 units here for $200,000 income, net income. How many people should be in their database, roughly, do we think right now? 800? 600, 800?
Yeah.
More there? 600. How many sales came from the database in the past 12 months for that agent?
8.
8. Current database conversion ratio is 1.34%. How many sales do you desire from your database next year? Double it. 16. So with current conversion ratio, this is how many people you will need in your database, 1,194, which obviously if I only have 600, if I have 600 in there now, I need to add another 603 people to my database over the course of the year. And obviously, yes, you could straight line that, but if you're adding a lot of those people near the end of the year, well, the time that you get to saturate them into this, so really you're gonna try and get 600 people in there in probably the next 8 to 9 months. So in 9 months to add another 600 people, what does that max calculator, what does that come out to be per month? And I'm just kidding. It's a lot, right? It's a lot of people per month, 75 people per month, somewhere in that range that we have to add. So that's over 2 a day, every day. Wait, it's only 2 a day? So that's why I also like this, is that 600 people over the course of the year, it's 2 contacts a day, 2 to 3 contacts a day that you have to add to your database, right? That's not, you can meet more people than that on a morning walk. I want to increase my database conversion. So right now I'm at 1.33%. Why don't we want to aim get up to closer to 3%? Well, in that, we only have to add 533 new people to the database this year. Less than 40 people a month we need to add to the database-ish, right? Roundabouts, okay? So we'll go ahead and save that as our database moniker. And don't tell JP, but this is his account. We're just saving over every day. I'm hoping this is.
He's doing great.
Yeah, he's doing really good, yeah. Crushing it. All right, so example touch points. Now this I really like too. We have 19 to connect, 1 to cement, and how many to convert? How many? 19 to connect, 1 to cement, and how many to convert our clients in our database? The red book model. How many touches per year does the red book teach us?
43 or 40.
A little high.
36 now.
36.
36.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically 33, 36. Now, Dave Hook, who's out of the Delaware Southern Market Centers, he runs a fantastic class on your 60 touch program. But they also do 3 or 4 client events per year. And so he's able to get an extra 8 touches per client event that he does, including the event itself and including the follow-ups. So he runs a baseline 36, and then with his client events, he's also able to add in 24 additional touches, might be 3 events or it's 4 times, or whatever it is. But this is where I would start to track where those things are, right? So I want to actually add, what is the touch point that I'm going to do with them? What is the touch point? When am I running it? And who gets it, right? So we would want to fill out all those. Last couple things here, because these are going to go a little bit quicker. The goal gap to me is, this is the look in the mirror. The goal gap is where you actually get to say, all right, everything that I've done so far, everything that I got working on, what am I missing? How much more do I need to go? Am I ahead of schedule? Do I need to ramp things up a little bit? Am I falling behind? Right? When Frank says have a coach, we always say your first hire should be what, an admin, right? No, your first hire is your database. That can leverage your time more than an admin can. But at a certain point, you need someone to manage the database. That's where the admin comes in. For me, before I hire a coach, I'm just hiring a tool like this, right? Before I spend the money on a coach, I'm going to spend the money on an accountability tool that can track in real time, that can do the consistency for me, but that at any time I can look at it, it's going to be like, okay, well, based on your goals, you only have 70 days left to take listings in Q2. Because again, that ramp up period, how long it takes the contract to close, based on our conversion ratios, right? And I have 39 days left for my buyers to sell in Q1. Okay. Coming down, again, I got to know where I need to be listing appointments held and taken for each month, held and taken each month, right? Against the actuals and where the goals were. Okay. This, obviously, we're just looking at kind of the same thing, but we're just looking at it in a different version, but are held, are taken, are pending, right? So as we, track our appointments, these will start to fill up. So I know that this quarterly goal, I need to have 6 held appointments, I need to take 5 of them, and I need to get 5 of them pended. Right, so that's where I'm at. So my gap right now is I'm expecting to be doing about 1.92 million in volume with about 50,000 in GCI, and I have 0 of that, and I'm actually in the hole because I got some revolving expenses that I'm paying at the moment, right? So that's where we have to start getting closer to those gaps. And then obviously the daily gap, you need to stay on track. Obviously, listings held every day, I need to take 0.09 listings per day. So weird. So obviously the monthly, I think for some of these would be a little bit better of where it comes out to be, all right? Everything that we've gone through so far, I think that's probably like a once every other week, once a month updating, right? Track your numbers in a separate, however you want to do it. This is the one tool that I would say if you want to bookmark it and actually do it every day, this is your daily tracking. We all know, hey, we're supposed to make so many contacts per day, we're supposed to be doing so many calls per day. And then over the course of a month, we'll be like, yeah, I feel like I made a pretty good call. Well, when in reality, you actually didn't make that many contacts. You just had long conversations with people. And that's still fine. You're building relationships. But what it comes down to is we need to be able to track what we're actually doing every single day in here, right? So this is where I would want to come up to new. Okay, so today is this day. So I lead gen for, we'll say I lead gen for 1.5 hours. I made 24 dials. Let's say I made, 6 contacts. I set 1 appointment. I didn't hold any. I didn't take any. This didn't sell, nurture, buyer appointment set. Let's say I set 1 buyer appointment. All right. And then we're going to hit submit on that. Obviously, you saw there's offers written, things like that. And now this becomes our daily tracker, right? So I can edit that, do whatever I need to. But this is where you start to be able to actually figure out what are your actual contact, right, to appointment conversion ratio. What is your actual appointment set to held, right? This is where you begin to track it. System can't follow you around yet. It's not an AI, it plants in your brain. You do have to go and update the activities you do. This is probably the largest burden to use of any program, is the actual you doing it and coming in here and doing it. But I would say if you're going to make your calls and at the end of the day, just make it a habit, last 5 minutes of the day, just add a daily tracker. At the minimum, just go in and do it, hit a daily tracker. If you want to bulk it and do it at the end of the week, I get it, but every day you skip this is just a farther way from accuracy. Sales pipeline, obviously, we're just taking a look at this again. 400,000 in potential volume in GCI, potential GCI, gross profit, and then where we go from the ratings from the different things. This, I'm not as aware of why they're doing it this way. Signed, oh, okay, signed with the paper. There we go, there's our pipeline. Yeah, so JP,
You're kicking butt, JP.
Yeah, this is good.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually really love the rating system they have in here. 'Cause I don't know, how many of you have taken business planning clinic before? So I went a couple times with Gene Rivers, and one of the things that he talked about was knowing not just what's in your pipeline, but what's in your 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day pipeline. The idea being that you can see any gaps that are in your business before they ever affect your wallet. We all, anytime you're working a sales job, a commission job, it can be difficult to budget and plan because you don't necessarily know when your paychecks are coming in. But if you have a good handle on your pipeline and all right, I need every month to be bringing in this much money, you can see, all right, I'm on track to make that much money. I'm going to be fine paying my bills, or hey, there's a gap in my 90-day pipeline. And I better do something about it before it gets to my 30-day pipeline, and all of a sudden I don't have time to address it. So the system that they have there, and I forget now because Connor took it off the screen for me.
Sorry, it's just.
I forget if it starts with 10 or not. Yeah, 10s. So 10s are essentially your 30-day pipeline. These are people that you anticipate are going to be transacting this month. 9s, you extend it out another 30 days, 8s, another 30 days, and so on and so forth. So you really are able to get a sense of, okay, based on the goal setting that I did and the economic model that we walked through, I know that, I need to close 4 deals a month. And in order to close 4 deals a month, I need to have, let's say 15 people per month in that segment of the pipeline. Well, if you see that your 8s are only at 5, then you know, all right, what do I have to do to get more business into that 90-day pipeline? Do I have to call through my sphere and ask everyone if they can send me a referral? Do I have to go through expired? So like, what is it that my business dictates I do to fill in that pipeline before it ever affects my income?
Makes sense. So the potential volume was the volume of, I didn't realize that you had this in here. That's where that 400,000 in volume came in from. I didn't realize where you had set that. So this is a potential listing, right? An appointment held that you had here. The price was at 400,000, right? For an address, you got the name, phone number of the client. That's where we're getting our potential profit, our potential GCI. It looks like Barbara
Barbara
Corcoran.
Corcoran.
Yeah, perfect. Nice.
I'm watching a lot of Shark Tank.
So the last 3 here, right? So our listings manager, a very similar view of being able to take a peek at all of your actual listings. This for me feels very similar to opportunities where it has that probable and potential income, right? Transactions as a whole, a very similar viewership of all of that. And then as we get down here into the finals, into the financials, we would be able to start to take a look at all of those expenses, and I believe all of the earned income comes into here as well, correct? So this shows you like each line of like a closing would be an amount positive, and then any expense that gets done would become a negative against all of that. And it would just show you all the different categories that are occurring. So we went a little quicker as we got down to the bottom here. I think again, for me, the profit and loss is something you should be reviewing on a monthly basis. I think constantly making sure you're going in and making, knowing that your economic and your budget models are kind of set. Tracking your budgets and your bookkeeping appropriately is probably another one of the more daily activities. But some of the CEO, the agent production, right? These things, these are more of your maybe every other week, once a month, once a quarter reports that you need to sit down with your team and you review with all of them. The daily tracking is to me, that's the one thing that is going to be a make or break, whether this tool is going to actually help your business or if this is just going to become a chore. In the beginning with anything like this, adding another line item to your day of work is a chore until you see the positive feedback loop of what that activity gives back to you. So I think there's a little bit of a Nike swoop here. Like you're going to first start doing it where it's just work without the benefit. But then as you continue to do this, you're just going to be so much more intelligent about your business. When you go to grow, you have to be incredibly efficient about where you're putting your dollars and your time. Like time above all becomes a resource, just like our money does. And if you're not allocating it properly in the right channels, then you're growing by accident, if you are. And you're also probably not growing sustainably. I could hear you want to say something.
I was just gonna say the other thing that, I would say add to your workload in using this tool is time block a weekly review of your goal to gap. When I'm coaching agents, one of the things that everyone hears is, oh, hold yourself accountable to your activities. And that's great. And you should figure out how many phone calls you need to make every day, what your lead generation has to look like. But if you're only holding yourself accountable to your activities and not to your results, you can get way off track if there's any dip in your conversion. So if you need to make 100 phone calls a week and you hit that 100 phone calls, but the reason you need to make 100 phone calls a week is because you need to set 4 appointments and you only set 2, you're not on track for your goals. So anytime you do the activities but miss the outcomes, your targets for activities shift. And that's what the goal to gap is going to help you do. Even if you are hitting your activity numbers every single day, based on what your actual results are, the goal to gap is going to adjust and say, okay, you closed this much business, you have this much in your pipeline. In order to achieve the goals that you set forth, what you actually need to be doing is making this many calls and setting this many appointments and signing this many contracts. That adjustment in real time is only really helpful for you, though, if you're reviewing it regularly.
Yeah.
You don't want to get 4 months down the line, you look back and say, man, now I need to make 300 phone calls per week. And it's no longer as sustainable as if you make those micro adjustments sooner because you were staying on top of it.
So either increase the volume of calls or get better at calls. right? And that's that skill gap component too.
And sometimes it's not even, absolutely, but sometimes it's not even a skill issue. Sometimes you just call the wrong 100 people, like, and that happens to all of us. The real estate is a numbers game, and it's all statistics, but as we know, statistics aren't hard set facts, they are averages by and large. So sometimes it's just about, I did all my activities and it just wasn't my week. All right, I still need to adjust the activities to compensate for that. If you see a longer term trend of, I expected that for every 25 calls I made, I set one appointment and my conversion ratio is actually looking more like 50-1, then it's a conversation with, a coach or Connor or someone else, in leadership to say, how can I get better at conversion? How can I improve those skills? But everyone, no matter how skilled they are, no matter how experienced they are, have those little lapses because not everyone wants to work with you, and that's just the name of the game. But no matter what the reason behind it is, no matter if it's an ongoing thing or a singular event, anytime you don't hit those outcome goals, your effort goals have to adjust to compensate for that.
So we're right at 1. kwempower.com/dashboard. You can find the Clarity Now link to join. I recommend, look, we went through, we kind of breezed over this, right? We just wanted to give you a visual look of some of the different things you would have in here, some of the basic categories. You have to, this is one of those things you've got to play around with it. You've got to play around with it. You've got to start working on the daily tracker. You've got to start